What's up, everybody? It's the Hardy Construction. You can find us at hardyconstruction.tumblr.com, youtube.com/hardyconstruction, as well as facebook.com/the Hardy Construction Videos Comp. And
Goggles.
today we're covering...
It's reviewing, not covering. Stranger Things.
Lord Almighty. Stranger Things, the 2016 series created and directed by the Duffer Brothers. Did they direct every episode? No. Some people, actually it's different guys.
Well, created by them, and it's a Netflix original, right?
Yeah, it's actually this series. They actually wanted to bring this series to a couple of channels, and it ended up on Netflix. So I guess Netflix once again chooses the right.
Can you imagine how fucking stupid the people who denied it felt?
You gotta wonder though. I mean, because it's making a big buzz online, but you gotta figure what that would do ratings wise, because this is a very niche show. Let's actually get into what this show is about. So on November 6, 1983, in the small town of Hawkins, Indiana, 12-year-old Will Byers vanishes mysteriously. Will's mother, Joyce, becomes frantic and tries to find Will, while police chief Jim Hopper begins investigating, and so do Will's friends, Dustin, Mike, and Lucas. The very next day, a psychokinetic girl knowing Will's whereabouts is found by the boys. As they uncover the truth, a sinister government agency tries to cover it up, while a more insidious force lurks just below the surface. It's created by the Duffer Brothers, and it stars Winona Ryder. So I think people know who she is.
Yeah, it was nice to see her and shit.
Good to see her some stuff. It just reminds you how long I haven't seen her. And
the last thing I remember of her is when she got arrested for stealing.
Last thing I remember was seeing her in Black Swan, and she looked a lot older in Black Swan than she does here. But then again, she probably was playing her a lot older. There's David Harbour, who's Jim Hopper, the sheriff. And he's an actor that's been in a lot of things, but I just, at the top of my mind, I'm like, where did I see him from? Because he reminds me for some reason.
I totally recognized him, but
he reminds me of like the stupid guy from Modern Family, the dim-witted husband.
Oh yeah, I know.
He sort of has
the guy
a look
that's
like
in Dawn of the Dead remake.
Yeah, and then I realized, I forgot he was in that, and I realized he's also was in the horrible movie Suicide Squad. But then again, don't let my feelings about that movie...
See, now, I haven't seen it. Very quickly, in 30 seconds or less, sum up what is horrible about it, in your opinion.
Okay, apparently what David Ayer did... apparently David Ayer had directed... This is what they say. David Ayer directed Suicide Squad. He wrote and directed. He wrote the movie in 6 weeks. He directed it. And apparently DC got so scared of the bad backlash that a Batman vs. Superman got, which I actually liked, that they had somebody else edit the movie. The people that edited the trailers, they edited the movie, and it looks like it's a mess. Like it's a.
The editing is the issue, not the story.
Yeah, it's like they handed them a movie and then somebody remixed the movie. Like, and plus it's just like, Danny, you don't know. While I was watching it, I was having flashbacks of Mortal Kombat Annihilation. What was the second one? The Mortal Kombat?
That was it. Annihilation.
Yeah, that's what I felt like watching it. I mean, it's in no ways.
That's a shocking thing to say right there.
I mean, in no way it's as unwatchable as that movie is, but it's
because I wanted to see it. It looked like really fun.
No, I mean, listen,
trailer.
make your own opinion on it, but I'm telling you.
Yeah, but you're comparing it to Mortal Kombat Annihilation. I don't know.
Yeah, right. I was like, oh my god, watching it, I couldn't believe how badly edited it was. It was really
that sucks. So he made a great movie and somebody fucked it up.
I don't know. That's what they say. I mean, I don't. All I could tell you is this: is the editing is so fucking bad in that movie, and editing is not something you really notice unless you kind of edit yourself. And I edit a lot, so I'm used to editing. But watching the film, it looked like they were just kind of clipping sequences together, like bad flashback editing, and the Joker fucking sucks. Like, Jared Leto really... I don't know if it's the material they gave him, because he said that they cut a lot of his film out, cut a lot of his scenes out the film, but I mean, he's just like... There's nothing about him that really says Joker besides green hair. Really, there's nothing. Like, I mean...
That's upsetting.
It's really bad, but anyway... Getting back to this film, so that's not...
Yeah.
I mean, well, when Danny watches Suicide Squad, he'll let you guys know. Remember, you have to watch Batman v Superman first. So Stranger Things, like we say, it's a Netflix series, and it has a heavy 80s vibe. While watching, I remember the first episode of it, I was like, because I remember hearing about it online. Like, it almost seems like a day or so after it premiered on Netflix, because I just saw the trailer a while back.
It feels like The Gate to me, and like
yeah, that's a good
Goonies,
comparison.
like the serious Goonies vibes.
It definitely has that 1980s Steven Spielberg-esque 80s sort of film. I say 80s twice.
Is it shot in like a way that's like, you know, like did they shoot like old school film and stuff that? Like
I think honestly, I think it's atmosphere and music that really helps this film, because it
the
certainly
music's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. It has a lot of sort of synth core music that, you know, everything's done with synth. But I remember seeing the trailer for this show and I was like, what the hell is this about? I was like, is this like X-Files? Like it's obviously looked like a science fiction show. And I was like, hey, what's going on? And I saw, and they were really pushing with Winona Ryder, but Winona Ryder really certainly plays an important role in the show. We're only talking about the.
She's like really good at playing a hysterical, crazy person, basically.
She should have called Beetlejuice to help her out, and you know he would have ended up having to marry her.
She learned her lesson with that already.
Yeah, it's true. But yeah, we're only really going to talk about the first 3 episodes. But I remember when, like, as soon as like
for
a
now,
day or so,
we're gonna watch the rest, but we've only watched up to episode 3 so far.
Yeah, certainly, because it's great so far. But I remember the day after that it was released on Netflix, it was just like all over Facebook. Like people were just talking about this show so much.
You don't understand. Like, I've had like 3 people tell me like this. A friend I have like was coming up to me like, you have to watch this. Like several people have told me this. Now I watched it.
Yeah, I mean, so as soon as I saw the first episode, first episode maybe like 3 or 4 days ago, and I was immediately going, holy shit, this is like an 80s film. Like I don't know what it is that it does right, but it certainly feels like a movie from... I mean, obviously it's set in the 80s, and the tone is right, but there's nothing about the show... Like, if there's usual shows about the 80s now, they're very, like, self-referential, and they're very in on it. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, hey, look at me. I'm drinking new Diet Coke. Ho, ho! You know, they're doing something really... or they'll say some joke like... Boy, they'll be like, oh, that Bruce Jenner is gonna be great all this time, you know, shit like that. That they'll make it real, like, pop culture referencey, so they'll reference stuff that's happening now to, like, you know, reference itself in the 80s. Like, they're trying to make it look like it's so fucking... I remember seeing the worst joke, I tell you, I remember still the worst joke I've ever seen on television. There's a show called That 70s Show, right? And they had for a little while, they had a spinoff called That 80s Show. And... I tell you this, I saw the trailer for it and I knew it was going to be the worst show I never watched, because on the trailer itself, there's a guy in a limo, right? And he has a huge cellular phone, and it's like obviously back then when they first had cellular phones, they were the size of a fucking phone book.
Yeah, they were like a real phone, yeah.
And this is the joke. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube, the trailer for That 80s Show. He picks up the phone, right? And it's huge. And I guess that's the visual joke. And he goes, hey, I'm talking to you on a cellular phone. And you can hear the audience erupt in laughter like it was the greatest joke in the history of all time.
Well, you're a laugh track.
Yeah, I guess it's a laugh track. Like, that guy was really working that machine really hard. But I remember looking at it going, I was like, that's not a joke, is it? Like, this can't be real. Like, did the guy slip on the editing?
Wait, let's talk about
right, but I'm saying Stranger Things doesn't do that. It doesn't do shit where it's like... It's like referencing 80s to remind us.
It's not like pointlessly nostalgic just to be nostalgic. It's
right, because in the show itself, obviously there is stuff in the background. Like, the only thing that I really noticed that it was like showing that it was the 80s was when Elle, who is obviously named after 11, is what turns on the TV and she has a flashback from the Coca-Cola. I'm sure Coke had a great, you know, they were like, shit, yeah, reference.
Also, there's like some Star Wars, but I guess Star Wars is now too. But I mean,
it takes place in 1983. So is that when I think
you read it before?
Empire Strikes Back comes back by then, or
yeah,
I think so, because 77 was the first Star Wars, and I think around the 80s was the second one. So I'm sure by then they were, you know, raring to do those sequels. But anyway, Stranger Things, how does this show begin, Daniel-san?
There's a guy running in a laboratory from a monster, and he gets, you know, killed by the monster, or vanishes from the monster. And then there's a bunch of people, like, investigating. Yeah, and then it goes to Will Byers, who's, like, the kid that's missing, and they're all, you know, dorking out, playing like Dungeons and Dragons.
There's 4 main kids. There's Mike Wheeler, Dustin Henderson, Lucas Sinclair, and Will Byers, and they're all best friends. They're playing like Dungeons and Dragons. Is that what it is when you start role playing games? So they're playing that. Is it a role playing game, or what the hell is that called?
Yeah,
I guess it's an RPG, whatever. So
Will is the dungeon master.
he has a the main kid. I think is it Mike? Mike has a sister named Nancy.
Oh, what the?
Nancy with the
Yeah,
big strong,
Nancy.
with the
Yeah.
big strong jaw, the very skinny girl. She's like probably 16. I think she actually is 16 too, which is strange because they're actually
These are all like seriously good actors. they
yeah,
got
it's
for
all
this,
like
too.
age appropriate. It's weird because like if you watch movies for the most part, well, the movies that stood out in the 80s, a lot of the kid actors were very good. If you watch the Goonies, all the kids were actually very good actors. Well, for the
Yeah.
most part, they were good. Like it's like Data.
Corey and all those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like they actually cared about finding good actors. Now at times they're trying to find kids that mug and act like adults for films. Like one of the worst people that are guilty of that, like Chloe Grace Moretz. You know that actress, the girl who was from Kick-Ass, the one who played Hit Girl.
Yeah.
Like she was great in Hit Girl. I mean, in Kick-Ass, but they'll take like a smart ass kid nowadays, and the kid's like much wiser than everybody else in films.
Right.
And they try to like see, oh, this kid's making you look like an asshole because you're an adult and she's smart. And I remember seeing, I think it was Diary of the Wimpy Kid. They had a trailer for it in a theater I saw, and she was like incredibly more genius than everybody else. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. And luckily,
I like
we
the
don't
girl
have to-
from the little kid actor from Little Miss Sunshine. or
oh,
whatever,
Abigail.
and she's in
Breslin.
Zombieland and everything.
Yeah, Abigail Breslin. She's also in Scream Queens, which she's great in. But with this show, the kids actually act like kids in the show. Like they have that sort of sense of wonder that has been beaten out of us as we get older. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
they're really great. Mike Wheeler's great. He's played by Finn Wolfhard. Wow, that's a pretty
That's a
hardcore
cool name. Hard
Finn
Wolf.
Wolfhard. And there's also Glenn, I think Gaten Matarazza, who plays Dustin Henderson, who looks like, he looks like he literally came out of a fucking 80s film. And he's
Yeah.
missing some teeth, and I think they explain, he actually says what the...
He has like some weird disease that his teeth don't grow in or something.
yeah, and he looks, like, with the little hat and the coat, he looks like he really walked out of a film from, like, he looks like a child from an 80s film. Like, I would say he's like the...
He's
equal
like
to-
the kid in Goonies that does
Chunk.
the belly thing.
Yeah, Chunk. That's what I thought. He's not a fat kid, but he's like equal to that kid, like the goofy sort of sidekick that's funny. And Caleb McLaughlin as Lucas Sinclair, who's the one black kid in the group, and he's great. He's funny because he's like the smart kid that doesn't want to deal.
Yeah,
with
he's
shit.
he's the only one that seems to have common sense.
He doesn't want to deal with any of this shit. And then Will Byers is in the first episode very briefly, and the whole mystery surrounds him disappearing.
He makes appearances as lights, as Christmas lights.
Yes, when his mother creates a wall-sized version of a Ouija board. So
Yeah.
Winona Ryder is playing Will Byers' mom, and when we all deal with, the whole series deals with his disappearance, and he's sort of, what are you getting from that? Because so I'm sure they explain what not all of it, but I'm sure they get into it from episode 4.
What, you mean
on.
like what actually happened to him? He's in
Yeah,
like a
because I'm
parallel
getting
universe.
this. Yeah, I'm getting it's the Silent Hill vibe because that's what happens to. Obviously, we're spoiling the show, so go watch the fucking show already. I'm sure.
Yeah, well,
whoever's
if
listening to this has
you're
already
listening
seen
to
the
this,
show.
that sucks for you.
I'm pretty sure if you've watched the series, you've already seen the 8 episodes. There's only 8 episodes. I thought it would be like 12 or something. But it's almost like Nancy Wheeler's friend. Who's that girl? Barb.
Yeah,
Because I think
she's
it's
in
so
an
funny 'cause-
alternate universe. Like
Yeah,
in
Barb's
this
sort of
parallel.
like. I looked up the actress who plays Barb, Shannon Purser. And she's actually
What's
very
that?
cute.
What's
Go
that? That like weird. I think guess it was like a Japanese movie we saw where it's like basically Power Rangers, but those two guys are in an alternate universe where there's a
Zayran?
monster.
Zayran.
Yeah. It's kind of like that sort of thing.
Oh, okay. So that you just get yeah. It's also like sort of like Silent Hill in a way. So this show is like because Silent Hill is like a show. A video game series, or there's also 2 movies. I think
I've heard of it. I never played it or anything. I don't
Silent
know
Hill is
what it is.
basically I guess if you keep driving or get into an accident, you end up in this alternate version of your town, which is like a burnt down version of your town, and it's like all your psychosis is there. So everything fucked up that you've done in life has come to haunt you in that city. So I sort of see it here. This sort of Silent Hill in a way that the whole town, like if you're taken by that sort of disappearing monster or whatever that alien is, it takes you to that other dimension and you're kind of stuck because it was really relevant in episode 3, or was it episode 2, when they take Barb and at the pool, and she was stuck in sort of like some sort of moss covered pool. You know, it was like some weird.
So what is it? I wonder what it does.
I have no clue. I mean, if
we'll find
by
out.
episode 3. I'm trying to see what happened at the end of episode 3, because I don't know if I saw episode 4. What happened in
No, I didn't see episode 4. Episode 3 is when they find out that Will is actually, his body is
physically
discovered.
dead. Okay, right. So that's what I was thinking. I was like, maybe they're.
But I feel like that's not. I feel like that's not. Like, yeah, either his soul is going to go back into his body, or like that's not really his body, and like they made a fake body or something. I feel like.
Because as we see in the beginning, there's like Matthew Modine. The villains in this are really 80s sort of shady government scientific experiment people. Like, they don't give a fuck. They're just going around taking care of shit. And they obviously when they first find that scientist is missing, I assume he's missing because they just find like this weird sort of pulsating organism on their wall. I don't know. Maybe that was a sack that creature came from.
Oh, okay. He's Private Joker in Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's been in so many things.
No, I recognized him. I was like, I don't know from where though. But
I think that also helps give the show a very 80s vibe to it, because his whole career was from the fucking 80s, and although he was also in the fantastic Dark Knight Rises when he plays. Oh man, with these two DC movies where I'm like, oh, boy. Listen, my quick review of Dark Knight Rises.
You didn't like Dark Knight Rises?
It was good, but it wasn't the best to follow up to because I like the Dark Knight. I love that movie, but the Dark Knight Rises, like, it seems as soon as I heard Bane talking in the theater, I was looking around because I couldn't believe his voice sounded like that. Because he was like, because he's Bane is in a plane with Littlefinger, right? And then like Littlefinger has to talk loud because they're in a plane. And he's like, and he sounds completely normal. And he's obviously talking from a machine in his mouth. And I was like, what the hell is this? I was laughing so hard because it sounded like Sean Connery or something. But yeah, that movie was horrible. It wasn't horrible. It was okay, but not a good.
Honestly, I think that whole series is overrated. But that's just me.
Really? Okay. Anyway, back to this. We'll get to a DC episode soon. So. Chapter 1, The Vanishing of Will Byers. So this is from Wiki. That's where I read the original plot summary was from Wiki as well. In 1983, a U.S. Department of Energy laboratory in the town of Hawkins, blah, blah, blah. We already said that. So there is we get introduced to Eleven, who is an escapee of this complex. Eleven is played by a young girl. She looks sort of like a young boy, actually, because her hair is buzz cut off. She's English.
Yeah, at first I was confused. Like, who's this? Like, I didn't understand.
I thought, like, is this like I'm turned on by a young boy. Oh, it's a girl. Never mind. Is that what it was?
No, I thought did Will shave his head? What is going on here? And then I realized what was happening.
She's played by Millie Bobby Brown, and Millie Bobby Brown is an English actor, and I think her family almost went broke. Helping.
We'll never have to worry about that.
Yeah, I guess so. They got broke trying to help her. And I guess it's good now that she's actually in this material. She's not saying much by the time I'm watching it, but she's very good for what she's doing in the show.
Yeah, she said like 4 words.
Yeah, she says mostly just one. The most she'll say is 2 words, but she cries really well, and she does look freaked out a lot. But 11 is an escapee from this complex, and Matthew Modine and company are trying to look for her. I think that she calls Matthew Modine's character Papa because I think that she thinks.
Yeah, I don't think
she has.
I don't know if she is human. Like, maybe she was like made there or something. I guess we'll find out.
By episode 2 and 3, there's heavily referencing MK Ultra, which is an actual government.
I guess they kidnapped her to do research on her.
Yeah, MK Ultra, or they probably raised her in there just to see how long they can do it. Because MK Ultra is a weird government experiment, which I'm sure is still going on. If you believe in conspiracy stuff, I'm not really a conspiracy nut, but
I think our government will do anything. So
so a little thing about MK Ultra. Let me see if I can see on Wiki.
It's a CIA mind control program.
Right, was the code name given to the illegal program of experiments on human subjects designed and undertaken by the United States CIA. So They were intended to identify and develop drugs and procedures to be used in interrogations and tortures, and also, wiping minds and making sleeper agents and shit like that. So this show definitely has that sort of all-encompassing, weird, subversive plot to overthrow people. Or the government overthrowing their own people. So it has an X-Files vibe. So it's playing with a lot of genres, but it doesn't feel messy to me because it strictly feels like a science fiction show, but it certainly has elements of horror in it, especially in the first part when Will's running away on his bike from that skeletal figure that's in the woods. I thought it was a UFO or
it's like a fantasy feel good adventure to me.
Yeah, but it certainly has that sort of disturbing vibe to it. And 11 runs in, she runs into Lucas, Mike, and Dustin. And they're basically trying to hide her, and it feels like it definitely feels like the plot of an '80s film stretched out to 8 hours of television, which I like. Although the second episode, I don't know if they had filmed enough for it because it essentially starts with the first 10 minutes of the last 10 minutes of the episode, and I was like, what the hell are they just redoing this? Like I thought I was like, did I watch the second episode and just forget or something? But So the boys are trying to hide Elle. What did you think about the interaction between the boys and Elle?
Oh, I liked it. It was perfect. It was perfectly cheesy 80s interaction.
Yeah, I realized children were much more innocent, especially the part when she's trying to take her clothes off and they tell her to get the hell out of the room. Because you realize I don't know how kids are these days, but they're much more filthier nowadays. Because kids are much more like they're perverts now for some reason. Like I'm sure I was a pervert as a kid, but I didn't know at that age. Thankfully I wasn't.
No, I was innocent as a little kid. I remember somebody explaining to me what puberty was, and you would grow hair on and everything like that, and I was like, ew. I legitimately did that when I was 10 or something.
I remember because I remember I was in a train a couple years ago, and I was just standing there, and I was overhearing this conversation of these kids that were 12 to 14 years old, and they were talking about the most filthiest things, and I was like, oh,
you're going through puberty.
I know. I was like, what the fuck? But anyway, so there's also Mike's sister, who has her own storyline. It may not be very important storyline, but she has sort of that.
She's to me the most uninteresting part of the show so far.
Okay, Nancy Wheeler. Yes, Nancy is dating a kid named Steve. I don't think he's so horrible. I think he's actually a legitimately good guy. It's just that he comes off as a brute, as the kids call him, a Chad from the '80s, which is the stereotypical '80s jock guy. But he doesn't come off as a complete piece of shit. You almost think he is because he's trying to sleep with her. But then again, what guy isn't in high school? And obviously, I think he was actually right in dealing with Will Byers' brother, Jonathan. I think he is. Jonathan,
because he was creepy and taking the pictures.
Right, yeah. That's why I was like, I understood why Jonathan Byers, who's played by Charlie Heaton, he sort of
his
looks...
brother's missing.
Right, no, I get it, but it doesn't matter that he's taking photos of you by yourself in your house with your girlfriend. That's like a little, what the fuck are you doing? So they pull that, they pull that bully shit in the show, but I think he was actually justified in doing that because could do a lot worse. Yeah. Although Charlie,
promoting bullies, but okay, go on.
I don't think it's good, but it's so funny because the actor himself looks like who's that host of that show on NBC, Jimmy Fallon, who I can't stand that guy because he has those sharp features like a fox or something. It's very strange, but he's good. Like Jonathan, it's the eyeballs. It's Jonathan Byers is obviously looking for his brother. They have an absentee father. Their mother is obviously frazzled now, Joyce. She had a relationship with the sheriff, Jim Hopper.
Well, they don't explicitly say that.
Yeah, I mean, you don't explicitly know whether that broke up her marriage or that was a fling after.
No, that dad seems like a real douchebag.
Yeah, and Jim Hopper has lost a daughter before, and his interactions. He seems like a burnt out cop, I guess, because of his daughter. He has a good interaction with his subordinates and stuff like that.
I think he was this big city cop because they kind of briefly mentioned the idea that he they say like they implied that he was a big city cop at one point.
And then he
in his
lost
career.
his daughter, and I guess he just moved out to bumfuck.
Yeah,
her.
or like maybe he like dealt with something like really scary, like some kind of big murder. Like I got that impression, kind of.
Yeah, but they do show it's serious business in the first episode because 11 runs into this guy who owns a diner, like a Greasy Spoon, and they end up killing him. And I wasn't expecting him to get killed. I thought he was going to be there for a little bit more, but he got killed, and he was like, I felt bad for him actually, that guy. But let's talk about Mike's family. I swear to God, his father looks like the dad from Dennis the Menace, like the comic strip. Like he looks.
Yeah,
like
his dad is like the most generic.
He
doesn't
really
give a
is.
shit.
Like you
reading
don't
a
understand,
newspaper
like
dad.
you don't understand why the mother's with that guy because he seems like so fucking like because she's like passionate and she wants to do stuff.
Yeah, but it's like every dad from the '80s, like ever. It really
he's
is.
He sort of looks like the evil guy from what was that vampire movie, The Lost Boys? You know that guy.
Oh,
has
okay.
a
You
generic,
think? Yeah, I could see. He's got
Yeah, the
like that generic feel
generic
good
glasses
look.
and hair look.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, the kid, the little sister, Holly, is probably the cutest kid I've seen in a film. I mean, a show
Yeah.
like in the longest time because she's like
And she's like scared of everything.
Yeah, and Aniston Price, and she has a. Oh, I guess there's two kids playing her because it's two. I guess it's twins playing her because you know that whole deal. We can't have kids. Tinsley and Aniston Price, and she has her own interaction with that creature that's hanging out in the walls in Will Byers' house. I wonder why. I guess the kid he must be like hiding in his own house, and that's why that creature's sticking around in the other dimension.
I think that it's they're in an alternate universe that's directly parallel to this. So wherever
Right.
he was kidnapped is where he is. He's like in his town.
I gotta wonder if because we've only gone up to episode 3. If Barb, I think Barb is dead. I would assume she's dead because there was this big.
I have a feeling. No, she's not dead. I have a feeling that Barb and Will are going to find each other in this alternate universe.
Yeah, because there's people already on Facebook going, "Oh, sorry to see a missing Barb," and I'm like, what did Barb really do besides not? I think the big deal that
I
people
felt bad for Barb.
I did
like,
too.
It's
No,
such
I
a
did
sad
because
story.
which I was surprised at when Steve had them in the party. I was like glad that he wasn't like a dick to her. You know what I mean? Because she sort of disappear and get taken away in that pool. By
She's gonna be back. I'm positive.
that creature was the Cosbytron 5000, I think, because he was. But anyway, so I think in episode 2, they're the boys are still trying to find out Mike, and they have to deal with little bullies everywhere. I can't wait till those fucking kids. I swear.
I want
11,
the kids to get I want the kids to get kidnapped by the fucking monster.
No, I hope 11 like intertwines their penises like fucking shoelaces and makes them fly into a roof or something like. But that's how I would want it to happen. But Elle recognizes Will in a photo, so she must have some sort of. And she was also able to make his voice come out. I think this was near the end of episode. Maybe it might have been in episode 4. I don't know if I'm spoiling anything, but she's able to.
Made her,
Go ahead.
I don't remember that part.
No, there's a part where they're talking on walkie-talkies, and he hears Will's voice.
Oh,
That might have
I
been
don't
episode
remember
4.
that.
All right, I haven't seen all
you
of
watch
episode
ahead?
4 so
Oh,
much,
you
but I
bastard.
might have seen like the first 10 minutes. But I think the relationships with all these characters feels really well, and also now Nancy is because Nancy's trying to hide that she's had sex, and it's I mean they cover it really well for
Naughty
80s
girl.
tropes. Yeah, they're covering it really hard for 80s tropes where girl losing her virginity, and usually the boyfriend will be like, "Oh, I got laid. I don't got to talk to you anymore." Like Steve doesn't do that. He seems like a legitimately okay guy, even though his friend is a fucking dick.
Right.
I think I like how grounded these characters feel, even though it's only been 3 episodes. I felt like they're.
I do want someone to punch Steve in the face.
Fair
His
enough.
face-
I'm sure
he's
maybe
very
it will
pompous.
happen. I'm sure Jonathan will punch him in the face, maybe, or vice versa. What do you think the end game for this sinister company is? Because they're already lying about showing videos to the cops about who escaped, 11 escaping.
I kind of see them as like Firestarter, the Stephen King. Like
Okay,
they're probably
right.
like that type of organization, just like trying to create weapons, basically.
What's your theory on what? I'm sure I don't know whether it's explained because they said there's a season 2 coming, but what do you think the end game for
monster?
Elle will be? Do you think Elle will go full Akira in this show and disappear like powder, or she might live a regular life?
I think that they're gonna have to kill the government agency for her to escape.
You might kill the whole
basically.
government at the end of this. Imagine that, and then the L becomes president. Like, and
If
just
they
like Hillary
did that,
Clinton.
I would vote for her over any
This
of
is
the other
a
people.
this is a whole this show is a whole thing funded by Hillary Clinton's campaign. You know, like at the end of the episode, she turns into Hillary Clinton, and that's what it is.
Then I wouldn't want her to win.
And Hillary goes, "This was my life story," and then that's it. That was a good impression of it. And then that guy Matthew Modine turns into Donald Trump. And Bernie Sanders is the black kid. He's like,
Okay.
he gets zapped by lightning. He goes, well, you know, those aliens, they're coming. All right, very racist voice I'm just doing there. So I do like the show a lot. I think it's like incredible. And if you're listening to this episode, obviously you've watched the first 3, or you've probably seen all 8 episodes. Because what's stopping you from? You know,
Most people
Netflix?
fucking marathon this stuff.
It's
I'm
so
trying
weird
to
because
pace myself.
when I'll watch anything off of other streaming sites, I'll watch and then stop and look away. But Netflix, you really can just watch the whole.
Well,
like
it tricks you because it goes right into it,
Yeah.
and then it forces you to watch.
It
And,
really is
you know,
like probably the best. What is it? Not interactive. The way that the way that the whole website is put together is like just you can just watch whatever the fuck you want, just go right through it and be done, and be like, oh yeah, now I watch. Now I gotta wait a whole fucking year for the show instead of waiting weeks and weeks and weeks, and then you get 3 months.
That's
off.
why I'm trying to pace myself a little, so I don't. I'd like to like make it stretch at least like 2 weeks or something.
It's like when you have a person flick your penis for 2 hours so you can ejaculate. That's pretty good, right? Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
no, I like to drag out the pain a little bit. Yeah.
Is there anything that you don't like about the show?
No, it's like
Yeah, it's
perfect
pretty
so
good.
far.
So far, it's actually a very excellent show, and I mean, the vibe of it is very dark and sinister when it has to be, and then it feels very light and 80s when it needs to be. And the soundtrack is used really well. I mean, they have some 80s classic songs, and even songs that you don't really know from the 80s playing around that, makes it work. It makes it feel...
And the actual like score is pretty fun too.
Yeah, and to think, I don't know if there's any shows that were in the 80s that were made like this. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure there were, but not in the level like of TV that we have now, where we can actually watch a serialized program and be like, "Oh man, this is awesome." So I wonder in the 80s, because they had like MacGyver.
Well, no,
like
the
that.
quality of
about
TV
that.
has gone up like dramatically,
Incredibly,
in
and
the
this
past
is for a streaming site. So, so
Yeah.
far, I think for the first 3 episodes, I would certainly give it a 9 out of 10. A 9 out of 10. Feeding a child all the what was it, pancakes he was giving her, or something.
Yeah.
Feeding a child all the pancakes that she wants, and then just getting killed by a fake child services program person.
Okay. I'm gonna give this a 10 out of 10.
Very good.
10 out of 10. I'm
This is
trying to
great.
think of
You
something.
are
Hold on.
amazing.
Hold on. Hold on. I'm gonna do
See your
it.
wall
Hold
and the
on.
creature
Hold
comes
on.
out.
Hold on.
And,
10 out of 10. Making painting your wall into a giant Ouija board rather than just simply, maybe writing it on a piece of paper or getting like an actual Ouija board for like $2 at a dollar store.
Makes sense. With that, Danny, what's the final word?
Shkabadibudibagabadibidabab.
The horror deconstruction.